In addition, bitter men become broken men. Matthew 18, there's the parable of the unforgiving servant. Jesus tells it. In the section previously, he talks about a man being sinned against and offended, and then he tells this story. So contextually, it's about a man who is sinned against. And the story that Jesus tells is this. There's two guys, and they have a debt. Again, the debt here is financial, but it is showing the debt of sin. So one guy, let's say he owes $1 million, he can't pay it back. He's over his skis. He goes to the man to whom he owes the money, and he literally just pleads for mercy. He's like, I know I owe $1 million. I can't even make the interest-only payment. Please don't take my house. Please don't take my wife. Please don't take my kids, because what he had done in that day, he put up everyone and everything in his household as collateral for the debt. And this means that this guy now gets your wife, and your kids are his slaves, and his wife is your concubine, and his house is now your house. And now you got to go home and tell your wife and kids, sorry, honey, you're a concubine. Sorry, kids, you're slaves. Dad failed in his financial dealings. I mean, catastrophic. So he goes to this man and he pleads, please give me mercy. Please forgive me. And the guy does it. The guy not only gives him more time to pay off his debt, doesn't even renegotiate the deal terms, just forgives it. Can you imagine a bank like this? Right, you're all chuckling. But you go to the bank, you're like, I know I got a nice house and I can't afford it. Could you please just say, you forgive me, right? And the bank does. The bank's like, you know what? We'll forgive the debt. So this wealthy man just forgives the debt. You know what he just received? Forgiveness. Did he earn it? Nope. Does he deserve it? No. Is it pure grace? Absolutely. You think this guy would be really happy. He goes home, tells his wife and kids, good news, we're debt free now, right? We accepted Dave Ramsey in our heart. We have no debt, you know. In addition, honey, you can be my wife, not his concubine. Kids, you're free, not slaves. Next thing you know, knock on the door. It's, let's say it's a guy that he's in business with, or it's his landscaper. And this guy owes him like $1,000 in comparison to the $1 million. And the guy is asking for the same thing. Could you give me some time to pay off my debt? Could we renegotiate the APR? Could we figure out the deal terms? And what he says is, no. There's no forgiveness, there's no grace, and there's no mercy. You pay me everything, or I'm going to put the screws to you, and I'm going to wreck you. And what he says is, if you're forgiven and you're not forgiving, you're like that man. See, we tend to think of all the people that have done us wrong, but we forget how wrong we've done God. And if God's willing to forgive us and we're not willing to forgive them, we're no better than that man. Now, there's a haunting line in Matthew 18 where it says that the man who was forgiven but not forgiving, he gets actually thrown in jail, that the man who forgave him reverses the deal, throws him in jail, and it says that he is tormented, depending upon your English translation, he is tormented by the jailer. This is where Jesus says something haunting similarly. He says, I won't forgive you if you don't forgive them. That's a paraphrase. That's a Scooby-Doo verse. That's a ruh-roh, zoinks. That's a scary verse. Right? You don't forgive me unless I forgive them. That's kind of the analogy in the story. And the tormenting from the jailer, most Bible commentaries believe that the jailer is a picture of Satan. That if you're unforgiven, you're in bondage, you're not free, you're enslaved. Satan is like that. That he literally imprisons people and he torments them. What that means is if you're a man who is unforgiving, you're going to be demonically oppressed and tormented. Statistically, there's a guy named Fred Luskin. He wrote a book called Forgive for Good. And he was at Stanford. He ran something called the Forgiveness Project. And he wasn't even a Christian, but he said, if you don't forgive, your blood pressure goes up. If you don't forgive, you have a stroke earlier than other men. If you don't forgive, You have mental health problems, more susceptible to suicidal ideation, angry outbursts, to suicide than other men. Do you know why? When you don't forgive, you're literally inviting Satan and demons. You're inviting the jailer and all of his minions up into your life. Some of you men know exactly what this feels like. You've got bitterness and vengeance and unforgiveness, and you feel oppressed because you're oppressed. You feel tormented because you're tormented. You feel attacked because you're attacked. And it starts to manifest itself in men with depression and anger and anxiety and vengeance and outbursts. This is why some guys are like a grenade with a pin pulled, and other guys are scared of that version of themselves, so they self-medicate with alcohol and drugs and porn, and they're just trying to dial themselves back to a manageable, controllable state. And one of the stupidest things we tell men is that time heals all wounds. It doesn't. Time doesn't heal any wounds. What's true physically is true spiritually. If you get shot, just say, well, I'm just gonna wait. Time heals all wounds. You won't be waiting long. What's true physically is true spiritually. So what happens is bitter men become broken men. And here's what I know about men. Some men are bad. They're just evil sons of the devil. Other men are bad. They're just broken. Someone or something in life has broken them. And this is the broken version of them. And so ultimately, the Holy Spirit can heal them if they're willing to forgive. And what that does, it literally releases them from the jail cell of torment and oppression, and it frees them to be new men and live a new life. I'll share a story with you of what a bitter man is a broken man, and ultimately, a bitter man who is a broken man becomes a self-destructive man. I'm just gonna verbal process at this point. You know something is of the Lord when it's a win-win. You know something is of the flesh when it's a win-lose. You know something is of the devil when it's a lose-lose. It's like a suicide mission. Like, I'm gonna blow myself up to blow you up. It's like, what kind of plan is that? That's demonic. Some years ago, we moved into a house, my wife Grace and I, when our kids were little. I don't think we had all 5 kids at the time. And there was a house nearby, I won't say the details, and she loved the house. We drive by, she's like, oh my gosh, like, I love that house, that's my favorite house. And so one day, I pulled over and I was talking to the guy that owned it. I lived nearby, and I was like, yeah, my name's so-and-so, live around the corner, neighbor, saying hi, good to meet you. And he custom built the house. I said, so tell me about your house, how long you lived in. He's like, oh, just, a year or two. I was like, wow, it's a beautiful house. He looked at me and says, do you want to buy it? I was like, well, didn't you just custom build this house? He's like, yep, this was our forever dream home. We've been saving up our whole life. We got it built about a year or two ago. Do you want it? Do you want to buy it? I was like, wow. I said, well, I would love to. It's my wife's dream home. Every time we drive by, she makes sure that I'm aware of this fact. I said, so I would love to buy it from you. I said, but I don't think I can qualify for your price point. He said, well, what can you qualify? I was like, well, what do you think it's worth? And he said, well, we did an evaluation. We're getting ready to go to market. It's not on the market yet. He said, I think it's worth here. I was like, yeah, I can't afford that. Like, I'm a young pastor with multiple kids in the People's Republic of Seattle. I'm not there, right? That's where I'm at. And so I was like, yeah, I can't afford it. And he said, well, why don't you make an offer? I said, well, I don't want to offend you. I said, I don't want to come in with some lowball offer. And he said, quote, well, the reason we're getting a divorce is my kids have grown up and I hate my wife. And even though it's our dream home, I don't want to be in it with my wife. It feels like a haunted house when she's around. He said, so we're getting divorced. He said, why don't you send me a lowball offer and I'll accept it just to tick her off. Okay. I was like, well, Pastor Mark stumbled into an opportunity here. Okay. I said, so let me get this straight. You want me to send you a lowball offer for the dream home? He's like, yep. Okay. I mean, that's the word of the Lord. I'm his servant. So I sent in a lowball offer, and then her realtor called. It was like, yeah, we got your offer. Just wanted to let you know, we're not going to accept it. It's too low, da-da-da. I said, well, that's weird because the husband said to send it in. And she said, oh, the husband. So then I get a call back. And the wife is like, I will take that offer and give you all these concessions and financial kickbacks to even lower the deal to tick off the husband. Okay? So then that dude actually came over to my house and he's like, I can't believe she took the offer. He's like, I'm gonna give you more concessions and I'll give you here's what they're doing to the value of their home. Very quickly depreciating it. They're both losing money. You know why? They're bitter. She's like, I'm gonna hurt him. He's like, I'm gonna hurt her. I'm like, you guys are splitting this asset. And they're like, I don't care if we run it down to zero as long as I put the screws to the other one. So we got a really good deal on a house. Okay. And I don't know if that was godly or not, but I'm just telling you that's what happened. But this is what happened. When you become a bitter man, you become a broken man, eventually you become a crazy man, eventually you become a self-destructive man. And all of a sudden it was like, I don't care how much I lose or how much I hurt, as long as they lose and they hurt. That's where broken men get when they live in bitterness.
Howdy, Pastor Mark here. Thanks for viewing the clip. And if you'd like the entire sermon, we've got it ready to go.